There comes a time where we get a little ahead of ourselves and jump the gun. Such is the case of Fox Studios when it came to their infamous film, Dragonball Evolution. The movie came out in 2009, and to this day, it is still regarded as one of the worst adaptations of all time. Since then though, there have been little bits and pieces coming out about the behind-the-scenes process and the making of the movie. From rewriting the whole script, to even canning the entire sequel, which was already written before Evolution came out. Today, we are going to go down a little rabbit hole in one of Dragon Ball's darkest times in history. Let's talk about Dragon Ball Evolution and its cancelled sequel. I think it's important to shine light on some key moments of the production of this movie. The year is 1998. You're sitting in your room eating Totino's pizza rolls, watching Toonami on Cartoon Network, when Goku comes across your screen for the first time. Your mind is blown when you find out someone can get stronger by screaming, but you come to school the next day and find out that not just you were watching Goku, but so was Diana, Little Timmy, and Juan too. Dragon Ball Z came to the US a few years before, but it was its move to Toonami that skyrocketed it to a worldwide phenomenon. Kids, teens, and adults loved it. Toonami had a huge cash cow in their hands, and Hollywood was quickly becoming very well aware of its potential. In 1995, one of my favorite iconic actors and martial artists growing up, Jackie Chan, was quoted saying that he really wanted a Dragon Ball film to be made in one of the Daizenshu guidebooks for Dragon Ball, but that it would require a massive budget to translate to live action. The Daizenshu is a collection of guidebooks after the Dragon Ball manga ended its serialization. They contain encyclopedic coverage of the Dragon Ball series, the manga, anime, and movies, including character biographies, timelines, attacks, interviews, and more. When asked who should play Goku in a live-action Dragon Ball movie many years later in 2013, Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, would coincidentally say that nobody came to mind, but if it were back when Jackie Chan was still young, nobody could have played Goku but him. Fast forward to 2002, Fox Studios acquired the film rights to the Dragon Ball IP. This studio had full intention of making it a live-action movie series. Before the film even came out, the production team was so confident on this making huge bank that they already went ahead and wrote the whole sequel script from beginning to end before Evolution even hit theaters. In August 2008, Chi-Chi actor Jamie Chung hinted that there was already discussions of a sequel.
I mean, I watched the cartoons as a kid, so to be able to play this character is pretty cool. They don't show my dad, but maybe we'll save that for, Dragon Ball Z.
Rumblings like this didn't stop. A couple months later, on April 3rd, 2009, one full week before Evolution released in the US, Goku actor Justin Chatwin had this to say: "I know they've written a second one and it's pretty far out there. The second one really goes to some different places that I've never seen in any comic book adaptation." James Marsters, the actor who plays Piccolo, would follow up with this by saying that we're going to get Dragon Ball Z later, where Piccolo becomes youthful and he's going to become the Piccolo that most people recognize. He even confirmed it on live television with everyone watching.
I also heard that Justin Chatwin today said that you guys are green-lighted for a sequel, so...
I heard that in the makeup room here, actually.
See how we're cutting edge here.
Yeah, thank you.
We like to
I'm
keep
happy.
you informed. Well, either way, that's good news
back
for
in
you.
my green suit, yeah.
Well, congratulations on the film, and we will be watching. James Marsters' Dragon Ball Evolution opens Friday, April 10th.
Things started to get really weird though, because it seems some actors were kept in the dark on what they were allowed to say. Previously, we heard Jamie Chung hint at there being a sequel, but around the same time that Marsters officially confirmed that it was actually happening, this is what Jamie Chung had to say about being in the sequel.
If there is a sequel, I would really hope that the Chi-Chi character joins the group in search of the Dragon Balls.
It's very interesting that she would emphasize that only if a sequel was happening, especially given that she was one of the first ones to drop hints at there being a second one. Granted, maybe she was playing coy and was told not to tell people about the announced sequel yet. Maybe she was not told that it was already publicly announced. Or maybe this interview took place before it was even confirmed. The upload dates say otherwise, but Jamie's interview could have been easily shot and uploaded at a later date. Regardless, the typical practice before all press junkets is to inform all the cast members what they are allowed and not allowed to say. So it's very odd not to update her on the status of the sequel. Anyways, we know how history unfolded. We got a very loose adaptation of the anime, and I use the term loose adaptation generously.
You are getting your cleaned.
I beg your pardon?
Goku's a high schooler, he's head over heels for Chi-Chi instead of the other way around, Uzaru was a servant of Piccolo instead of just not being that, Goku beats Piccolo, and the movie ends. If you stuck around for the credits, you are met with a tease that Piccolo is coming back for the sequel. The movie grossed just $9 million in the United States against a $30 million budget. It died domestically, but internationally, it did notably better and bumped its worldwide numbers up to 55 million in total gross numbers. Taking into account distribution and marketing costs, it was considered a commercial flop. But that did not stop these studio heads from reaping more from the franchise. Fast forwarding to the following month, on May 15th, Evolution had already been in theaters for a full 6 weeks. There were only 2 weeks left for this movie to be in theaters. On this day, Marsters had this to say: "In spring and summer, I'm on tour in Europe. Check for dates and tickets on jamesmarsters.com. And then we'll start shooting the second Dragon Ball movie." He grins. "I've just heard that I can actually tell that there's going to be a sequel." This would be the last time we would hear of this. There was no formal announcement made, but sometime after, the sequel project with their plans for a cinematic universe was shot down. So, what changed? Why did they have Marsters and Chatwin going out there saying that a sequel was greenlit when they already saw the numbers? Is it possible that they were just saving face to make the most of the last 2 weeks the movie was in theaters by saying it was so good a sequel was being made? Maybe, but most movies earn their most earnings during their first few weeks. By week 6, the movie would have definitely already shown the studio if this was a profit or not. The writer of this post mentioned that this interview was most likely conducted in early April, but it was simply just posted towards the end of May. This means that this could have been outdated information by the time it was released, but it is such a bizarre PR stunt to do this when the movie is about to end its theatrical run. Going by what was said during the interviews and how some cast members were simply unaware of there being a sequel, it's fair to assume that however far along in the drafts of scripts they were in, only a few of the cast members were actually told about it. Google will tell you that it was cancelled due to poor reception and not making enough money, and while I think that's partially true, I think it only tells half the story. Truth is, they did write a sequel script before Evolution came out and the movie was going to happen, but they were going into it writing off of the high that Dragon Ball finally hit the big screen. When Evolution actually came out, they planned on going full steam ahead still despite the negativity that they were receiving because they had the whole plot written out already and they did not want to put all their hard-earned effort to waste. They already paid someone to write it and others to rewrite it. That's where they told Marsters and Chatwin that they were greenlit for a sequel. But when it came time to sink more costs into hiring production managers, new actors for new characters, finding venues for filming and snagging a director, that's when they tried to make up for all the sunk costs from their existing sequel script by making it a tax write-off. Tax write-offs are something you hear more about in Hollywood nowadays. We've heard some specific cases such as the Batgirl movie and the Coyote vs. Acme movie at Warner Brothers. A movie being labeled as a tax write-off means the studio is allowed to declare completed content as having zero future value. By shelving the project, the studio removes it from their asset list to reduce their taxable income, allowing them to deduct production costs and save on taxes. It's not really a refund per se. The studio just gets to save on taxes. But they also no longer have to distribute residuals or back-end bonuses to the creators, cast, and crew. This strategy allows the company to minimize tax payments even if the project is a finished, high-budget product. The script as we know it is most likely locked in a safe somewhere deep in the ground buried for no one to see it. But little bits and pieces of the plot was made known to the public. From what we saw earlier from Justin Chatwin's comments about the movie, we know that the movie would have been pretty far out there, with some interviews around this time quoting him saying, "It's really, really cool. The second one goes more into the whole legacy and the genealogy of Dragon Ball. It goes more in depth into a real Dragon Ball series, the kind of intergalactic world of Dragon Ball." Another post from IGN quoted him saying that it's more in the vein of the Dragon Ball saga. It goes into other places. There's other characters, other fighters, and there's a lot of action that is just really awesome. It actually goes more into Dragon Ball Z land, and it's just really exciting. It goes into the whole legend of Dragon Ball. I can't really say more than that, but it made me think this is a cool franchise to be a part of because there's so much we haven't shown yet. From what we have from the interviews, we can kind of piece together the structure of what the sequel would have looked like. Piccolo would have returned as we saw in the post-credits scene from Evolution. Whether this is actually Piccolo Jr. like in the anime and manga, we won't know for sure. Though if I had to put my money on it, they probably would have been too afraid to show this dude spitting out that egg. This aligns well with a quote James Marsters said in an interview with TV Guide, stating that Piccolo used to be good but was banished for getting into a bad argument. This is not explained or said in the movie at all, but this does allow them to sneak in a hidden lore fact. They could have mentioned in the sequel how he simply returned to the good side, ergo not having to throw up the egg that spawned Piccolo Jr. It's kinda confusing if you think more about the relationship with these two. When I was like 6, I thought it was just a father-son relationship, where King Piccolo was the dad and Piccolo Jr. was the kid. But they share the same memories and soul. He's the reincarnation of King Piccolo, so they are sort of both different characters but also the same. Not having him spit out the egg would void the whole reincarnation concept and simplify the story in typical Dragon Ball Evolution fashion. As to what he would have looked like, well, we kinda saw it in the post-credits scene. He looked exactly the same. But their intention was to make him more youthful. The initial plans for Piccolo in Evolution was to have him be depicted as a handsome creature. But Marsters and the makeup artist chose to give him a decrepit complexion to reflect his having been trapped for thousands of years stewing in his evil and thirst for vengeance. I think the more handsome creature idea was going to be saved for when he transforms into Piccolo Jr., slowly looking less and less like the Piccolo we saw in the post-credit scene in the beginning of the sequel, to the more handsome, youthful one they originally planned for by the end of the movie. Raditz probably would have been written out of the story completely. It's kind of a meme that he died so quickly in the beginning of Z and then never came back, while his brother went on to become jacked out of his mind, but it's important to hone in on Raditz's role in the story. In the original material, he served to deliver the plot twist that Goku was actually from outer space and was part of the race known as the Saiyans. But in this iteration, Piccolo had already revealed Goku was not from Earth. Granted, he wasn't called a Saiyan specifically in the movie, but it is definitely enough to rob most of Raditz's significance in the story. Maybe they just have Vegeta explain the Saiyan genealogy Justin was referencing instead. That intergalactic description is pretty fascinating to think about, given that we were already introduced to aliens through Piccolo and Uzaru. It's not that far-fetched to infer that Justin was implying that part of this movie would take place in space. Since they were willing to crunch all of the stories in early Dragon Ball into one movie in the form of Evolution, and that most of the Saiyan saga takes place on Earth, I'm pretty confident this movie most likely would have taken place on Namek, fusing both the Saiyan saga and Frieza saga into one film. Shortly after Evolution came out, the fan wiki page that you can still see online today was created, with the title Dragon Ball Reborn being thrown around as the rumored title for the sequel. This title was heavily popularized by IMDb, and most people just ran with it, but it was never officially confirmed as the sequel's title. My thinking is that they would have at least thrown the Z on there to attract as many people as possible, as DBZ was in its prime status at the time. This poster was the first thing you'd see on the wiki page. I was not able to confirm if it was official, but just looking at it, it looks fan-made. This serves as a perfect segue into the topic of fan-made posters. Some of these edits are so damn funny. I've looked at these so many times already and it still gets me every single time. The intentionally off-putting visuals, the absurd casting, I love it. You got Justin Chatwin going Ultra Instinct, Snoop Dogg as Beerus, Michael Jackson as Whis, Chris Rock as Frieza. Let me know in the comments which one is the most elite casting choice here. I'm thinking it's Chris Rock Frieza. It's the Spanish subtitles for me.
Then you are in danger.
Also, fun fact. In my search for these images, I just found out in the Evolution tie-in video game, it was revealed that Bulma's last name is Enchanto, and Chi-Chi's last name is McRoberts. Chi-Chi McRoberts is a fire-ass name. This means we would have gotten the introduction of other DBZ characters like Krillin, Vegeta, and Frieza, and maybe even some of the other side characters like Puar and Oolong. The Evolution movie we got was massively rewritten from its original script. The original script was written by Ben Ramsey, who publicly apologized for doing this just for a $500,000 paycheck, and admitted he did this more as a businessman than a fan of the franchise. The original script is fully readable online. There's appearances from Pilaf, Oolong, and even Krillin. It's still pretty in line with the odd lore contortion to fit Hollywood's idea of what would make a great movie. Pilaf and Mai were going to be Namekians, and Krillin was only in a single brief cameo scene. He was going to be shown eating popcorn while watching the martial arts tournament on TV. This was supposed to happen when the gang meets Roshi for the first time at Kame's house. Krillin was just a newly recruited student in this version. He just gives the team a thumbs up after Roshi introduces them to each other. And then that's it. We don't see him again in this screenplay. If I had to hazard a guess, some of these ideas might have been incorporated into the sequel. Maybe he would have been a new recruit and Goku would have been showing him the ropes. Or maybe they would have had him be recruited by Roshi off-screen, and now him and Goku are equally skilled at the start of the second movie. Coincidentally enough, it was actually Pilaf who would have revealed that Goku was a Saiyan and dropped the exposition that Saiyans were sent to conquer and destroy other planets. Which makes me further believe Raditz would have been a no-show since his significant story beats were being so easily passed around to other characters. Raditz and Nappa's remaining significance in the story all might have just been rolled into Vegeta's character. They might even make Vegeta Goku's brother because they think it's cool, and since he'll be in the remainder of the series. It feels like a simplification Hollywood would do. Believe it or not, that iconic look for Saiyan armor that we all know and love was already in development. The marketing and design team left a little Easter egg for the future films in their toy line. If you look at the packaging set for each of the action figures that were released for this movie, you'd notice these mysterious blue parts fragmented across all of the toys in this release. If you bought all of the toys, you could assemble the scattered pieces and form the original design for Uzaru. You may be asking to yourself, but that does not look like a great ape. It doesn't even match the Uzaru from the movie. Well, dear viewer, you would be correct. Uzaru's first evolution design more resembled an ogreish look with a rigid rocky texture to his skin. Looking through some of the photos, it looks like the longer he stayed in that form, the angrier he got, and the more the jagged edges on his head started to resemble the Super Saiyan hair we all know and love. It was such an odd choice, and when fans caught wind of it when the behind-the-scenes photos and clips leaked online before the movie came out, Fox Studios quickly covered it with the more ape-looking design we got in the final movie. That partially explains the rough CGI. Bear in mind, this was 1 year after Iron Man came out, so these graphics were really jarring to see even in 2009 standards. If we look back at the blue toy though, you'll notice that not only is it just the original Uzaru design we got a glimpse of, but also the concept design of Saiyan armor that they were most likely going to use in the sequel. I tried recoloring it on screen here. It's kinda rough since this figure was just a solid blue figure, but this is what we were supposed to see Vegeta wearing in the next movie. But this begs the question, who would have played Vegeta? Well, looking through some old discussion boards and forum posts at the time, it looks like Robert Pattinson and Matt Mullins were rumored to be playing him. Though, some say that the Pattinson one was an April Fool's joke on one of the 2 live-action blogs from 2009. I was not able to verify it, but I'm guessing that Matt Mullins was the other live-action blog post that was also an April Fool's joke. There was also a poll on the official Dragon Ball website back in the early 2000s, just when Fox got the rights to make the film. A question was asked to the fans on who they wanted to play Vegeta, and this was years before the release of the movie. By February 12 of 2003, the people spoke and said they wanted none other than Jackie Chan to play him. Mind you, by this time in 2003, Jackie was 49, opposite to Justin Chatwin who was 21 at the time. Meaning if we did get a sequel after the 2009 movie, say 3 years later like in 2012, 29-year-old Justin's Goku would have been fighting a 58-year-old Jackie Chan Vegeta. I know Vegeta's supposed to be older, but this notable age gap is pretty big. Truthfully, I think it's very apparent people just chose one of the 2 most well-known Asian actors at the time. Personally, I feel like Jackie Chan was more Goku, and Jet Li gave off more Vegeta energy. Going back to websites like these is super nostalgic, and the enthusiasm is very endearing. You can even see fans giving updates on who was working on the film, with someone citing that ILM, the people that worked on Star Wars and some Marvel movies, were initially asked to do the visual effects for this movie, but quickly passed up on it. Most likely due to the ridiculous work they were asking for with such a small budget. It's important to note that this information was reported by someone named Otherworld Steve, who supposedly got it from Kyle Hebert's website, a promotional website for the actor who voices adult Gohan in the English Funimation dub. So the source of information was not from Funimation itself. I have no idea who Otherworld Steve is, but props to him for reporting all this to us. There was also this video that surfaced a couple years ago.
You know who they wanted playing Vegeta? The Rock.
There is no source linked to this, so I think this dude is straight up making stuff up, but just thought that I'd show it since there aren't that much details about the cancelled movie. Okay, actually, I found out this guy's shtick is that he likes to just make things up. Justin Chatwin never said this. Chatwin's gone on record to say that he's sorry for the movie himself, just like Ben Ramsey. No way, does that actually have a signature on it? I wonder if it's legit. $40! Hong Kong filmmaker Stephen Chow was initially asked to direct Evolution, but declined and opted to be a producer instead. He also chimed in during the casting process. Before Jamie Chung was cast as Chi-Chi, Chow wanted Zhang Yuki to get the role, but that ultimately fell through. There aren't any other women in the series I could see her playing, but keeping in line with possibly reusing scrapped ideas, maybe she would have played Goku's mom Jean in a brief cameo flashback of Goku being sent to Earth by her and Bardock. I would now like to take this time to talk about one of the most fascinating fanfics for what the second movie could have looked like. Huge shout out to Bobbin Katzen for developing this concept. He perfectly cosplays a Hollywood executive in the writing room for this script. In this version, it is simply called Dragon Ball Evolved. The movie takes place at least 4 years after Evolution. Goku is now done with school and withdrew from pursuing further studies to become a professional martial artist. In the years that have passed, he is now a famous World Martial Arts Tournament winner, and Chi-Chi and him got married off-screen. Their first kid, Gohan, who is 3 in this film, is now being hunted for the immense power he possesses by one of the Namekians who once rivaled Piccolo in terms of power, Frieza. Frieza is now the self-proclaimed emperor of the universe and is in search for the Dragon Balls to gain immortality and a new power. He sends Vegeta, Goku's long-lost brother, to go fetch Goku and his family, so that he and his son Gohan can join Frieza's army in ruling the universe. Piccolo, now fully nursed back to his more youthful, handsome look with his full strength, now admires the human heart and decides to become allies with them once again. Goku and him make amends, though you can tell there's still some tension in the air, but Piccolo lets him know that his old rival Frieza is sending Vegeta to come for Goku and his son, and Piccolo is now tasked with defending 3-year-old Gohan. We are then introduced to Krillin, currently 16 in this film, so about 6 years younger than Goku. He is the lone master atop of Karintu. Throughout the film, we see him teaching Goku how to master the Flying Nimbus technique. Somewhere in the first or second act of the film, Goku will gain access to the Room of Spirit and Time where he can learn the firebending technique known as Kaioken. I love how this implies that Krillin will also have the Kaioken ability in this version, and the fact that they are doubling down on that airbending Kamehameha BS from the first movie. Vegeta would constantly say throughout the film that he is the evolved Saiyan, instead of the typical Prince of all Saiyans line we are familiar with. Hey, that's the name of the movie. Vegeta and Goku then presumably fight for at least a little bit, but we can't spend too much time here. We gotta cram in the Frieza arc somehow. Vegeta is inspired that Goku no longer takes orders from Piccolo and goes on to rebel against Frieza. They travel to planet Namek to confront Frieza, and it is here where Vegeta tells Goku that their Saiyan race was all mass exterminated by Frieza himself, and that they cannot let him get away with it. Vegeta is then shortly killed, to which enrages Goku. Seeing the death of his newly reclaimed brother sends him into a flurry of emotions. His fists clench, his eyes go white, the fiery Kaioken aura begins to turn from glowing red to golden yellow. He lets out a scream and turns into a Super Saiyan. He clearly outmatches Frieza, punching him across Namek, kicking him through mountains, basically running circles on him. Enraged at someone being stronger than him, Frieza powers up, twisting and contorting his body to handle his new strength and muscles, a new form that he dubs the Super Namek. This form, though stronger than his previous state, is still noticeably weaker than Goku's Super Saiyan. Frieza then powers down as he cannot sustain the power. Piccolo remarks that he has heard of the legend of the Super Namek, but he also mentions that it should be a stable form, noting that Frieza's incident must have been a false Super Namek. Goku wins, and they all fly home together. Some subplots Bobbin mentioned that would be here would include Chi-Chi and her dad, the Ox King, bickering over Goku being a terrible father and husband. He's always out training and barely spends time with his family at home. We'd also see Bulma and Yamcha's poorly developed relationship ending in a nasty breakup. Oh, and Super Saiyan would be on screen for at most 3 minutes. I love how horribly perfect and cursed this is. It actually sounds like the genuine sequel script that Justin was talking about. It has the perfect amount of oversimplification of the plot to infuriate the fanbase over the changes they made, yet still using the IP lore just enough to call it Dragon Ball. From making Frieza a Namekian, to making Vegeta Goku's brother, to replacing Korin and his tower with Krillin and renaming it Karinto for no reason, it's so deliciously off I want it so bad. Bobbin even incorporated the original Saiyan armor design found in the assembled toy we discussed earlier onto Vegeta. And he even designed Frieza after some of the concept art they used for Piccolo in the movie to further cement that this Frieza was a Namekian. It's such a bold choice of having Krillin being the one teaching Goku the Kaioken technique. It sounds like something they would have done, but if I had to put my money on it though, I'm thinking they would go more with the route of them being friends at the beginning of the film, where they're essentially as proficient as one another in martial arts. Maybe that way we can actually see their friendship grow naturally, and we can still have the hyperbolic time chamber, instead of having it erased with the Room of Spirit and Time. God, that name is so unsubtle, they probably would have named it that. If I'm being honest, 9-year-old me was just over the moon that Dragon Ball got recognized enough to get its live-action adaptation back then. I was not old enough to really have a sense of film literacy, or have an understanding of what was going on. I quite literally ate anything up that appealed to the IP I loved. Granted, my opinion has vastly changed now, but I would be lying if I said I was not at least curious or intrigued with what the sequel movie could have been like. Even this fanfic version that Bobbin made coincidentally aligned with a lot of the assumptions I made. Not sure what kind of reputation the Dragon Ball IP would have had if that did come out, but part of me still kinda wanted to see it. Let me know down in the comments below. Did you want to see a sequel to Dragon Ball Evolution? If so, what do you think the plot would have been like? This video was super fun to make. I kinda want to make another video about what the other sagas would have been like had this unhinged universe kept going. Apparently, Marsters went on to say that he signed on for 3 films, but wanted to continue making 7, probably to match the number of the Dragon Balls. I am super interested in finding out what those sequels could have been like. Anyways guys, that's it for me. For more of my videos, just click right here.